The moment she laughed, I knew I was done. It wasn't nervous or half-hearted. It was a full laugh, like I just told a joke. But I wasn't joking. I was defending myself. Let me back up. My name's Daniel. I'm 35. I live just outside of Louisville, Kentucky. For the last 6 years, I've been showing up to my wife's family's monthly cookouts like it's a second job. Her parents host. Her sister and brother-in-law are always there. And of course, my wife, Madison. Same setup every time. Grill going in the backyard, folding chairs in a circle, her dad flipping burgers like it's the 4th of July, even in October. I'd learned how to play along. Smile, nod, keep things smooth. But this one snapped something clean in half. We were all outside like usual. I had a paper plate in my lap, and everyone was mid-conversation about jobs. Her brother-in-law, Todd, was bragging about his second body shop opening up in Lexington. Good for him, honestly. Everyone clapped like he'd won a Nobel Prize. Then her sister, Lauren, looked right at me and said, "Still hauling boxes for a living?" Smirked, fork dangling from her hand like she didn't say anything wrong. I kept my voice calm. "Yeah, still at the distribution center. Actually, things are picking up. Might get promoted to district level soon." She didn't blink. Well, with my sister moving up the ladder, she needs someone who's stable, you know, someone who peaked early. That's when Madison laughed. Loud. No glance at me. No checking if I was okay. Just rolled with it. "He's right," she said, reaching for her drink. "Someone's gotta keep the lights on." I didn't say a word, just chewed my food and stared at the trees behind their fence. I felt my ears burn. I could smell the charcoal, hear her mom pouring sweet tea like nothing had happened. They all moved on like it was just banter. Todd cracked some joke about interest rates. Lauren started talking about schools for their kids. My wife leaned over and asked if I could grab the cooler from the garage. I stood up without a word and walked past them, straight through the gate, out to my truck. I wasn't grabbing anything. I was done playing the harmless idiot in their backyard sitcom. I kept walking until I hit the sidewalk, then cut left toward my truck parked on the curb. I hit the unlock button and climbed in, shut the door, and just sat there with my hands on the wheel. My mouth was dry, not from the heat, just that kind of dry you get when you're angry and trying not to show it. I didn't leave the engine off for long, started it up and cracked the window. Then I leaned back, pulled out my phone, and stared at the screen like I was waiting for someone to give me a reason not to do what I was about to do. After a minute, I hit the call button and held the phone to my ear. Madison texted while it rang, "You okay?" I didn't answer. Voicemail picked up on the other end. I hung up, tried again. Second ring. Then, "Yeah, Jason, it's Daniel. Let's move forward." He paused. "Forward meaning what exactly?" "Draft everything. I'm done. I want the papers signed." He exhaled into the phone. "You're sure?" "I was sure a month ago. Now I'm just tired." Jason told me he could meet in an hour. I told him I'd be there in 20. I didn't bother texting Madison back. Driving to the office, my hands gripped the wheel like I was holding the last bit of control I had left. The road felt longer than usual. My brain wouldn't shut up. I thought about Christmas 3 years ago, when her dad gave me a book called How to Win at Business, then laughed and said, "Thought you could use a shortcut." When I bought my used Silverado, Lauren said, "That's cute." Todd had one of those in high school. Her mom asked me once if I ever considered finishing college. "Just curious," she said, like she was asking about the weather. Madison never stepped in. She'd smile, sip her wine, change the subject like nothing happened. But the one that hit the hardest was a fight last month. We were in the kitchen. She was mad I'd passed on a warehouse supervisor job in Ohio. Told her I didn't want to uproot everything. She called it a fear of success. "You've got zero hustle," she said, tossing a dish towel on the counter. "Look at Rachel's husband. Or Brianna's. They're building things. You just stay comfortable." I asked her if she respected me at all. She didn't answer. That's when I called Jason the first time. Didn't go through with it then. Should've. He met me at his office off Shelbyville Road, top floor, corner unit with glass everywhere. He already had the paperwork started. Pretty straightforward, he said. No kids. You both work. Joint properties minimal. I skimmed the documents while he explained the options. I didn't say much, just nodded. At one point, I took a pen from the desk and spun it in my fingers while he talked. Then I stopped spinning it. I signed. 3 copies. 1 for me, 1 for Madison, 1 for the court. Jason slid a folder toward me. Everything you need's in here. Timeline, instructions, next steps. We'll serve her officially after the weekend. I didn't say goodbye. I just stood, shook his hand, and left. Back in my truck, I stared at the folder for a second, then shoved it into the glove box. The sun had dropped a bit by then. Still warm out, though. I cracked my neck, threw the truck in gear, and headed right back to her parents' house. Pulled into the same spot. Killed the engine. I could hear them laughing in the backyard again. Plates clinking. Todd's voice cutting through the fence like always. I got out, smoothed my shirt, and walked up the driveway with my hands empty. Not one person noticed I was gone. I stepped through the gate, smiled like nothing happened, and sat right back down next to my wife. Madison passed me a slice of pie like she didn't notice I'd been gone nearly an hour. The sun was dipping lower behind the trees, casting that golden kind of light that always made her mom's backyard look nicer than it was. The citronella candles were lit. Everyone had migrated to sit around the patio table. Plates scraped clean, wine being passed. Her dad leaned back with his usual bourbon, and Todd was talking loud, like always. For bedrooms, 3 baths, 15 acres, Lauren said, holding court with her fork like a pointer. It's not even listed yet. Friend of a friend. We're getting in early. Todd jumped in. It's got a barn. Real rustic vibe. We're gonna turn it into a workshop/bar. Like a man cave but classier. Her mom clapped. That's a dream. You two are just flying. I looked around the table at all the nodding heads. Madison sipped her wine and laughed along like she'd built the house herself. I leaned forward, rested my elbows on the table and said, "Quick question." Lauren glanced up. "Yeah. You still think my wife settled for me?" Everything froze. Her dad blinked. Madison stiffened next to me. The fork in Lauren's hand paused midair. Even the neighbor's dog that had been barking all afternoon finally shut up. Madison forced a smile. "Daniel, come on." "No, seriously." I kept my voice even. "Still think she settled?" Lauren's face twitched. "It was a joke." "Was it?" Todd cleared his throat, shifting in his chair. "Maybe we should cool it a little." I reached down, opened the small folder I'd brought back in my truck, and pulled out the papers. Madison stared. "What's that?" I slid them across the table right into her hands. She looked down, opened it, flipped a page, then another. Her mouth fell open. "You're joking." "Nope." Her eyes darted over the paperwork. "Divorce papers?" Over a comment. "No." Over 6 years of them. Her hands trembled just enough to catch my eye. "Daniel, you're blowing this out of." I cut her off. "You laughed. Not just tonight. Every time." Lauren scoffed. "This is emotional instability. You're making a scene." I stood up. "Thanks for the clarity." Madison's dad said something, but I didn't catch it. Her mom whispered, "What is happening?" I turned and walked toward the gate. My boots hit the concrete hard and steady. I heard Madison call after me, but I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I'd already left. They just hadn't noticed yet. By the time I pulled into our driveway that night, she'd already sent 6 texts. "Come back. We need to talk. You embarrassed me in front of my family. You're being dramatic. Please, Daniel, call me." I didn't answer any of them. Next morning, I was up before the sun. I drove straight back to the house, walked in with a key I still had, and started grabbing my stuff. Just the essentials: clothes, boots, tools, my laptop, and my granddad's old fishing rods from the garage. I left everything else. She wasn't home, probably still licking her wounds at her parents. I boxed it all up, loaded the truck, and pulled out with no second thoughts. I left her a note on the kitchen table that said, "Let your lawyer know if there's anything you want returned." An hour later, my phone blew up. First a call, straight to voicemail, then a flood of texts. "Why were you in the house? That's breaking and entering." "I'm serious, Daniel. You crossed a line. I'm calling the cops." 10 minutes later, 2 cruisers rolled up outside the place I was staying. Buddy of mine from work had an extra room. Cops got out, knocked like they were expecting a scene. Kept it calm. Stepped outside, showed them my ID, and then handed them a copy of the deed with both our names on it. "Not trespassing," I said. "Joint property. I took my belongings. Didn't damage a thing." She wasn't there. They checked the paperwork, made a couple notes, and one of them said, "All right, have a good one." As they walked off, one of the cops looked back and said, "Messy situation, huh? You could say that." I thought that was the end of it for the day. I was wrong. Her mom left a voicemail that was over 3 minutes long. "Daniel, sweetheart, this is a misunderstanding. You're blowing everything up over one dinner. We all say things we don't mean. Lauren jokes too much and Madison, well, she's under a lot of stress. She loves you. Please don't do something you'll regret. Just come by and talk it through. We're family. That means something." Then her dad called. I let it ring. He tried again. Finally, I picked up. "Man to man," he started. "You're being rash." She laughed while her sister humiliated me. "Yeah, well, she's not perfect. But you're no saint either. You've been moody and cold lately. What did you expect her to do?" "I expected her to have my back." There was a pause. Then he said, "You're acting like this is some grand betrayal. People argue. It doesn't mean you throw away a marriage." I didn't throw it away. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. I hung up. An hour later, her brother texted, "Seriously? Grow a pair." Followed by, "We've all been putting up with your attitude for years." I didn't answer that one either. Then came the email from Lauren. A full 3 paragraphs. "Sorry you're insecure. Sorry you can't handle successful women joking about your job. Sorry you think marriage is supposed to be one big ego stroke. Maybe try therapy before you ruin more lives with your fragile pride." I didn't even read the last paragraph. Just forwarded the email straight to Jason. He replied 2 minutes later, "Got it. Adding to the file. Document everything from here out." I closed the laptop and sat on the edge of the guest bed. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. It felt like aftershocks from a quake that had already split the ground underneath me. No one had asked what really happened. Not one person wanted my side. They just assumed I lost my mind because I couldn't take a joke. That told me everything I needed to know. I pulled out my phone and sent one last text to Madison. "Talk to my lawyer." Then I turned it off and tossed it onto the dresser. 2 days later, I got a call from the front desk. "Hey, Daniel? You've got someone down here asking for you. Says she's your wife. She's not on the visitor list." I closed the shipping logs and muttered, "Yeah, I'll be right down." I walked past the loading bay and out to the front. There she was, Madison, standing in the lobby with her arms crossed, red-eyed and clearly fuming. She didn't say a word as I walked in. I opened the door and gestured with my head. "Let's go next door." We crossed the parking lot in silence and slid into a booth at the diner beside the warehouse. Coffee mugs on every table, smell of burnt toast in the air. I didn't even bother ordering. She didn't wait long. "You're really throwing everything away over a stupid comment?" I stared at her. "You think this is about one night?" She leaned forward, her voice tight. "You embarrassed me in front of my entire family." I laughed once, sharp and bitter. "They've been embarrassing me for years. Every single one of them takes shots at me, and you just sit there." "They joke." "No, they insult. There's a difference. Your sister calls me a warehouse grunt. Your dad makes cracks about my education. Your mom acts like I'm some blue-collar case study. And you," I looked her straight in the eye, "you smile through all of it. Sometimes you even laugh." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know it hurt you." "That's the problem," I said. "You never cared to ask." She looked down. Her hands were shaking now. I didn't think you cared what they said. You always brushed it off. Because I knew what would happen if I didn't. This, right here. I love you. She whispered it like that was still supposed to fix something. Too late. She reached across the table. We can go to counseling. Work through this. I'll talk to them. I'll set boundaries. I didn't flinch. Where was that energy 6 years ago? Her face dropped. I didn't realize it would get this bad. I did, I said, and I still showed up every month. Smiled. Played the good husband while you let them chip away at me. She sniffed and wiped her nose. What about our house? The life we built. Already listed. Jason's handling it. She covered her face with both hands. I sat still. You don't even want to try? She said, barely above a whisper. I already tried. You just didn't notice. The waitress came by and asked if we wanted anything. I shook my head. Madison didn't even look up. When the waitress walked away, I slid out of the booth, dropped a few bucks on the table for the seat, and said, "Take care of yourself." She didn't follow me out. 2 days after the diner, I got a call from an unfamiliar number while I was on break. "Mr. Carter?" the woman said. "This is Emily Hughes. I'm representing Madison." I stepped outside the warehouse and leaned against the brick wall. "All right." She's requesting we pause the divorce and consider a trial separation. I didn't even blink. "No." There was a beat of silence. "I'm sorry. We're divorcing. Period." She cleared her throat. "My client feels this has escalated too quickly. She's had 6 years to see it coming." "Well, she's also filing for temporary spousal support," she said, voice sharpening. "She claims she was preparing to leave her position, soon to start a family." I let out a dry laugh. "Really? Show me anything that proves that. A letter, a plan, a doctor's note. Hell, even a calendar reminder. I'll check with her." "You do that." I hung up. That night, the floodgates opened. Madison must have been working the phones because I started getting hit from all angles. First text came from her cousin. "You're really divorcing her over hurt feelings? Don't be weak." Then a message from an old college friend of hers I barely even knew. "We all saw how much she loved you. You're ruining a good thing over ego." Next day, her childhood friend, Lisa, messaged me. "Everyone fights. Grow up. This is marriage. Not a rom-com." Nobody asked what happened. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody even asked why. They all just assumed I cracked. At first, I tried to ignore it. Put my phone on silent, focused on work. But the weight kept building, message after message, piling up in the corner of my mind. And not a single person on my side. That's when it hit me. I'd been on my own in that marriage for a long damn time. When her mom talked down to me, Madison said, "That's just how she is." When Lauren made snide remarks, Madison would say, "She's just jealous of our bond." When her dad treated me like I was barely good enough for their family, she'd laugh and say, "He's just old school." I played it off, bit my tongue, told myself it didn't matter because she loved me. But now, she didn't just let them disrespect me. She handed them the matches and watched the fire burn. I finally called Jason back and told him about the support request. "She's claiming she was going to stop working?" he said. "Yep. Did she ever mention it before?" "Never once." "Then I'll request financial records and employment plans." "She won't have anything." "Good. And trial separation?" I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "No, we're past that. Keep moving forward." He sighed. "All right. You've been solid through this. Just brace yourself. Pressure's gonna get worse before it gets better. Let them talk." That weekend, I skipped town and went fishing with an old buddy. No texts, no calls, just cold beer, river air, and silence. And for the first time in a long time, that silence didn't feel lonely. Felt like mine. A few days after I got back from the river, Madison texted, "Can we meet? Just for closure." I stared at it for a while, then typed back, 1 hour, Riverview Park, picnic tables near the tennis courts. She was already there when I pulled in. sitting alone, elbows on the table, head down. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Thinner, paler, worn out, like life had punched her in the stomach and kept hitting. I walked up and didn't sit. She looked up at me, eyes swollen. "Hey!" I nodded. "Hey!" She gestured at the bench. "Can we sit?" I slid onto the opposite side, arms crossed. I didn't say anything. I just waited. "I've been thinking a lot," she said quietly. "About everything." I stayed silent. Her hands were clasped tight in her lap. I was wrong. About how I handled it. About all of it, really? I nodded once. "Okay. My family is toxic. I didn't want to see it before. I let them walk all over you. I let them walk all over me too, I think." Still, I didn't respond. She swallowed hard. "I should have defended you. Every time they made you the punchline, I should have said something. But I didn't. I just wanted peace." "No, you wanted approval. From them. Not me." Her eyes welled up. "I'm sorry." I leaned back against the table. "Okay." She blinked. "That's it? Just okay?" "I hear you. That's what you wanted, right? Closure." She shook her head. "No, I mean, could we try again? Start fresh." I looked straight at her. "You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry it had consequences." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "If I'd stayed quiet, we'd still be right where we were." Me swallowing it, you pretending it's all love and laughter. "I didn't know you were that unhappy," she said. "If I had." "That's the point," I cut in. "You never asked. Not once." She wiped her face, breathing hard. "I still love you." "I don't doubt that," I said. "But it's not enough. I can change. You had 6 years." She reached across the table. I stood up before she could touch me. "It's done," I said. "It's been done." She looked up at me like she was drowning. "So that's it?" "Yeah." The breeze picked up. Somewhere in the distance, kids were screaming on a jungle gym. I turned and walked back to the truck. She didn't follow. 2 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. I signed the last round of paperwork at Jason's office, handed back the pen, and that was that. No drama. No final plea. Just initials on a dotted line. I gave up a few things: couch, TV stand, the kitchen table. She wanted them, and I didn't feel like fighting over particle board and fake wood. She moved back in with her parents. Couldn't afford the rent on her own. Not on that manager salary she used to brag about at cookouts. I heard through a friend that her dad was already trying to sell the house himself. Didn't want to deal with agents. Good luck to him. Then, about a month later, word started getting around that her sister's marriage was cracking too. Todd stopped showing up in family pictures. Lauren posted some "strong women walk alone" type quotes on Facebook. Turns out Todd got tired of being the trophy. Her constant digs. Her sideways compliments. Same treatment, different victim. He finally walked. Funny how patterns repeat. On what would have been our anniversary, Madison texted me. "Thinking about you. No happy anniversary. No apology. Just that." I stared at the screen for maybe 10 seconds. Then locked my phone and put it face down on the counter. Never replied. By then, I'd already moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing special, but it was clean, quiet, and mine. I'd picked out every piece of furniture. Black leather couch. Real wood table. Heavy curtains that actually blocked the sun when I wanted them to. I'd even gotten a dog, rescued mutt named Bear. Big, clumsy, loyal. Followed me from room to room like he couldn't believe someone picked him. I knew the feeling. Work got better too. I got promoted to team lead, more pay, better hours. I wasn't the guy on the dock anymore. I was the one running it. Started therapy too. Weekly after work. Nothing deep and mystical, just honest talk. The kind where someone actually listens and doesn't spin it back on you. And yeah, we talked about Madison. About her family. About how I let all those little slaps turn into something normal. It wasn't just one comment. It was years of swallowing crap and calling it dinner. Years of pretending I didn't mind being the joke, because calling it out would have made me the problem. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I was finally strong enough to say, That's enough. About a year later, I met Todd for a beer. He'd texted me out of the blue. I owe you a conversation. You free this weekend? We met at a bar halfway between us. Nothing fancy, just cold beer and a quiet booth. He looked different, lighter somehow. Not in weight, just in how he carried himself. Less buttoned up, less guarded. First thing he said after the first sip was, "I didn't know the whole story." I gave a short nod. "Didn't expect you to." No excuse, but I didn't realize what you were putting up with until I started noticing the same crap at home. We sat for over an hour just talking. And yeah, it turned out we'd been living the same script. Different names, same lines. Condescension. Dismissal. Being made to feel small anytime we weren't doing exactly what they pictured. "Man," he said, shaking his head. "I spent years thinking I was crazy." "You weren't," I said. "Neither was I. And the best part? I didn't feel bitter. Not even a little. I felt clear. Not long after that, I bought a house just outside town. One story, fenced yard, nothing flashy. But it was mine. Bear loved it. He'd tear across the yard like he was training for something. Every time I opened the back door, he'd bolt outside like it was his first day of freedom all over again. I dated here and there. Nothing serious. Just simple conversations with women who didn't treat me like a fixer-upper. One morning, I stopped by a coffee shop near the hardware store. I was waiting on my order when I turned and saw her. Madison. She was at a table with some guy. New ring on her finger. Blonde highlights now. She looked up, saw me, and froze. We both nodded. Just a silent, awkward wave. She turned back to her drink. Her guy didn't even ask who I was. And you know what? That was the real closure. I didn't leave over one comment. I left because I stopped believing I deserved less.